Prime Minister Stephen Harper is offering up the Canadian forces to help with rescue efforts at the mall collapse in Northern Ontario. On Monday, the building was deemed too dangerous for emergency crews to go in. That's when Premier Dalton McGuinty had his say. He asked the search and rescue team to go on. Kevin McShivery of the Elliot Lake Standard is on the ground there. He says the community is urging the province to keep looking for their loved ones. He has more now.
Last night there was almost a mob mentality for a while, but when they said they'd go back in with mechanical, at least with mechanical means, that sort of calmed them down. They had people out there who were singing gospel music, gospel songs. That sort of calmed everybody down. For a while they must have had 30 or 40 police officers there. Then when the group calmed down, they started leaving, and this morning there's only a few officers there, and the crowd of people is very small.
Yeah, I mean, some of the heartbreaking stories. The man who thinks his fiancée is in there has been basically staked out. They're holding vigil, hoping for any news. Are they still hearing any kind of tapping noises or any kind of proof or evidence that there might be someone under there?
We haven't heard anything to say that. The last we heard was at 4 o'clock Monday morning is when they heard it. But after they pulled out the crews, nobody has gone back in there.
Yeah, it's got to be extraordinarily frustrating for those that are standing by. A lot of them say they'll go in themselves to do the work that they feel that these people are trained and should be doing.
That seemed to have calmed down as well last night.
Is there a feeling that people understand that it's just gotten too dangerous?
Some people seem to, but they're probably thinking with their heart rather than it's a small town and everybody knows everybody, so everybody knows who this I can't remember his name, but his girlfriend, if she's the one, she works in the mall and everybody knows her.
And so what is supposed to then happen today? Because obviously time is running out for whomever might be under that rubble. What is the plan for today?
They haven't told us that yet. I was just over there, hurried back to do this, and there's no officials out there. I spoke to one person out there, and they won't tell me anything.
Do you get the sense that there's
later stuff.
Kevin? Do you get the sense that there's confusion, or they don't really have a plan?
That at this point, I'm gathering the I don't want to say lower, but the ground troops aren't yet being told what the hierarchy is working on.
That's got to be awfully frustrating for those standing around waiting for answers.
I was hoping they'd be calling a press conference soon, but they haven't given us a call yet.
No, and I think a lot of people surprised at the Premier getting involved after hearing reports that they had suspended the operation yesterday, and I don't think this thing would have moved any more forward had he not spoken up.
Well, I spoke to our MP last night, Carol Hughes, and she said they had involved the Prime Minister in this as well.
Stephen Harper, and did he have any comments for it?
She didn't give me any, but the way I'm gathering, both of them aren't demanding they go back. They're encouraging them to go back.
That is our Kevin McShivery at the Elliot Lake Standard covering the story for us. Premier Dalton McGuinty is now in the area and speaking to reporters on the latest. Let's go to that now.
You called him only late last evening. You're calling him only late last evening. He also said that the provincial emergency coordinator didn't arrive until late yesterday. What's been going on? Why?
Well, first of all, two things. First of all, that was my second phone call with the mayor. I phoned him the day before that, I believe, and ensured that if there's anything at all that we might do to let us know. I think that we need to be focused now on doing everything we can to help those people. Some may want to engage in some kind of a blame game. I just don't really think that's appropriate. I think what we need to be focused on, there will be a time for questions that need to be asked about what and when and how and why not and those kinds of things, but I think right now what we owe the people of Elliot Lake and particularly the families involved is to work as hard as we can to provide the necessary help.
So not to cast any blame at all, Premier, but aren't there lessons to be learned here? Shouldn't this ramped up response that your phone call seemed to have generated be the norm?
I'm not going to second guess the decisions that were made on the ground and why they didn't want to pursue this additional option that I've asked them to actively consider. But I think the good news is that we're doing everything that we can, and that equipment will be there shortly, and hopefully we can begin to dismantle the building in a way that lets us get safe access to the folks in there.
The Prime Minister says the military is available. Why wouldn't you immediately take advantage of their expertise and just feet on the ground there?
Right. We've got to rely on the emergency team. They know they know what resources they need, and if that involves somebody in the military, whether it's equipment or expertise, I'm sure that they're going to make that known to us, and I know the Prime Minister will be 100% cooperative in that regard.
Premier, were you surprised that yesterday around noon we heard that there was the tapping sound that presumably there was a survivor, and then 6 hours later they were abandoning efforts, and it wasn't, as Randy pointed out, until you intervened personally that it seems to get this ramped up response. Are you surprised by that? It's not a blame game. It's just a human reaction that we were all having watching this unfold.
Well, that's one of the things I expressed on the call. I know that first of all, the team on the ground there, they've been working around the clock. They are short of sleep. They are emotionally distraught, and you need to understand, when you volunteer to participate as part of an emergency team, you never want to leave anybody behind, right? That's every cell in your body screams for you to keep going. All the scientific and technical data that they had received led them to conclude that it was simply unsafe to stay inside the building. So that's why it occurred to us on the call as we chatted together that there might be another option. I know that there's a real risk associated with that. What if we could begin to dismantle the building from the outside with these cranes and these grappling technologies? So that's why we are where we are right now. Couple more.
All plans have risk, no matter how safe you think or how safe they think they are. And you've asked those rescuers to go back and try to find any survivors. Are you prepared to live with the consequences of what you've asked them to do?
Again, what we're talking about now, this particular approach involves using heavy equipment to begin to dismantle the building from the outside. There's always a risk associated with it. The people who work as part of our emergency teams are aware of that. They take on those risks. They want to help. That's why they're there on the ground. And I expect them to use good judgment now as they explore this new option, which is to dismantle the building from the outside. Une dernière à vous, madame.
C'est juste qui a le dernier mot sur les opérations à Elliot Lake? Est-ce que c'est le bureau du Premier ministre? Est-ce que c'est les équipes sur le terrain?
Ce sont les équipes sur le terrain. Ce que j'ai fait hier, le nom de ce...
So then, as Premier Dalton McGuinty, who is now on the ground in Elliot Lake, where the search and rescue operation not quite underway. Again, it was called off late yesterday in the day, and it wasn't until the Premier was called twice by the mayor of that town, who implored him to do something, that the Premier actually asked this search and rescue team to try everything they could possibly do to get anybody out of that building, if in fact there is. Prime Minister has offered up the Canadian Forces. The Premier said this morning in that press conference that he's not quite ready to move on that, but it is an option that they are looking for. When asked about the risks of this going back in to do this kind of search and rescue, if he's willing to take on that kind of consequence, the Premier said that there's always a risk when you go into these search and rescue operations, but that he expects everyone will use their good judgment. It looks or sounds like they're going to try to get into that building from the external, dismantle the building from the outside, because going is simply too dangerous. This is a story, of course, we're going to continue watching as these developments continue coming in, and we'll bring you the latest as we get them.